Welcome back, everyone. No matter where you are, no matter what time it may be. I hope y'all are doing well out there. Most of us like to believe that the walls around us mean safety. That if we can just make it inside, lock the doors, and wait out the night, whatever's out there can't reach us. But for a few people, that line between safety and danger got crossed. These are encounters from listeners who say they weren't hunted out in the woods or on lonely highways. They were cornered in the one place they thought was untouchable. I want to thank you guys for being here, whether it's your first time or you've been a long-time listener. Also, before we get into these encounters, I want to remind you, if you're listening, if you have an encounter of your own and you'd like to share it here on the channel, be sure and reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. Just send me an email. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. My email address will be in the description of this video. All right, legends. It's getting late. It's getting cold here in Kentucky already. Let's go ahead and get into these encounters. Lock in, and let's begin. Everyone grab a drink. Lock your doors and windows. Hit the lights. And let's get started. Hey there, Reels. To start off, I want you to know I'm not the kind of person who jumps to wild conclusions. My wife and I have lived in the same house outside Johnson City for going on 20 years now. We've seen everything from black bear to weird folks cutting through the woods at night, but nothing that ever made us scared to live here. Until last fall. The first thing happened on a Wednesday night right around 2 a.m. I woke up thinking someone was at the back door. It wasn't a loud pounding. It was this slow, spaced-out knocking. It was always in 3 solid taps every 15 or 20 seconds. We don't have any close neighbors, so I figured maybe one of the grandkids got in trouble or something. I got up, picked up a flashlight, and went to the back hallway. The knocking stopped the second I turned the corner. I turned on the porch light and looked outside, but the motion sensor didn't trigger. The yard was empty. The dogs in the living room were just staring toward the door. Their ears were straight up. They was making no sounds, no whining, growling, or barking. They were just oddly staring. That was weird enough to make my stomach feel weird. Nothing happens. I go back to bed. Carry on with life. The very next night, the same time, same pattern. 3 knocks. It was steady enough that I started counting seconds between each one. I even yelled out, "Who's there?" a couple times. And I swear each time I would yell, I could hear a low sound like someone exhaling through their nose, deep and heavy, right against the wood. When I opened the curtain, the only thing I caught was a smear of black hair or fur right below the window. It moved before I could focus the flashlight, like it ducked down out of sight. By the third night, I decided I'd be ready. I waited in the dark with my phone camera open and the back porch light off. Sure enough, at 1:58 a.m., the 3 knocks came, dead even. I hit the light switch. What I saw, only there for a split second. A very broad and tall figure pressed up against the door. Its hand, if you could call it that, was wide with long fingers that bent in wrong directions. Its nails were scraping into the frame like it was trying to break the door frame or test the grain. Its head was way up there. I could see part of its face in the glass, but only part of it. It was too tall. I could see half of a canine snout. I could see a yellow eye reflecting. It was about the size of a dime, if I had to guess. They were faced in the front like a predator, and they were spaced apart. because this animal's head was huge. I didn't think. I fired one shot through the bottom of the door with my .38 and heard it crash into the steps outside. The dogs went berserk. When I opened the door, there was blood smeared all over the wood, but no body, no drag marks, there was nothing else. It never came back, no more knocking. But for weeks we would find weird prints. They were too big to be a dog, but they were definitely canine. We followed them, and most of the time they would circle the back of the house. The easiest time to find them would be after every rain. Whatever it was, it did not seem to care that it left prints behind. My wife still won't use that door if it's dark out. We replaced it with steel, but she says it doesn't matter if it wanted in. She told me it could get in, and I have to agree. I don't know what dogmen are. I don't even know for sure that that's what I saw, but what else could it have been? I've lived here my whole life. I know what black bear tracks look like. These weren't bear. They were human-shaped with claws that bit deep enough to chip the concrete steps. You tell me what kind of canine is so big and heavy with claws sharp enough to chip concrete steps. I'll wait. Rick and Paula H., Washington County, Tennessee. The subject line of this next email says, Reels, it tried to break down my door. And this one is from Kentucky. Hey man, I'm not sure how to start this. I'm not much of a writer. I just figured if anyone's going to want to hear this, or it could be spread around to help someone else, you would be the guy. Been listening for a while. Anyway, this happened in March of last year, just outside of London, Kentucky. I'm a single dad. I live in a double wide with my daughter, Emma. She's 13 now. Anyway, it was in the middle of the week, and it was one of those spring storms that just kind of sits over you for hours. It makes you wait for the catastrophe to hit. There was wind, thunder, the whole thing. Emma had gone to bed early because she had a test the next morning. I was sitting in the living room watching the Weather Channel when I heard something slam into the back porch. It sounded like a tree limb maybe fell, except it didn't sound like wood hitting wood. It sounded more like meat on metal. I got up thinking maybe part of the roof tin came loose. Before I even reached the kitchen, the motion light clicked on, and I saw this shadow move past the window. Not a small one either. It was definitely upright. It was definitely big. And this thing was fast as hell. The doorknob started rattling violently, not jiggling like a person trying to sneak in. I mean twisting and yanking hard enough that the whole door was flexing. I heard Emma scream from down the hall, asking who is out there, what's going on, and I told her to stay put and lock the door. I grabbed a 20 gauge from the corner closet and yelled out that I was armed. The second I said that, something hit the door so hard the top hinge popped a screw. I fired through the screen, just a warning shot, really, and everything went dead quiet except for the rain. When I finally worked up the nerve to open the door, there were these huge gouges, 5 of them, running straight down the metal door like somebody had grabbed and pulled. They were deep enough to catch your fingernail in. That's pretty damn deep. I called the sheriff's office. A deputy came out, took one look, and asked if I had anyone mad at me or any enemies. When I told him what I saw, he just smirked and said it was probably just a bear then. I've seen bears. This thing's shoulder was above the window line. It wasn't a damn bear. This thing was probably 9 feet tall, if I had to guess. The next day in the daylight, I found a few weird-looking prints down the mud line behind the porch. They weren't boots. They weren't paws either. They were long, narrow, and you could see where something like claws had been pressed into the mud like nails digging in. I patched the door, replaced the hinge, and I haven't let my daughter sleep on that side of the trailer since. She still brings it up all the time when it storms, especially. Says she hears heavy breathing at her window sometimes. Maybe you'll read this on your channel. I just needed somebody to believe me because around here, if you talk about stuff like that, you're either drunk, crazy, or you're told to shut up and don't talk about it. I appreciate you taking the time to read this. You're a great guy, and I truly respect you. Mark, Laurel County, Kentucky. This is a wild one. Well, they're all wild, but trust me, this one is, yeah. Hey, Reels. Now, I've gone back and forth with myself at least a dozen times about whether I wanted to do this. This has been sitting in my drafts folder for 2 weeks. My wife says I'm making too much of it, but she didn't see what I saw that night. We live outside of Marquette, Michigan, about 15 minutes from town, just off County Road 550. The house was built in the 60s. It's old block basement, oil furnace, low ceilings. We bought it because of the location. Quiet, cheap, kind of tucked back into the woods. It's too quiet sometimes, honestly. The first strange event took place in December 3 years ago. I kept hearing noises down in the basement after midnight. Not creaks or pipes, this was actual movement, like someone dragging their foot slowly across the floor. I'd go down there with a flashlight and a pistol, and I would find nothing or no one. Then I'd come back up and find the dog pacing at the top of the steps. My wife, of course, hinted at the place being haunted, but again, that stuff is nonsense in my opinion. I figured it was probably raccoons. That was what got my vote. We do get them a lot. But the smell changed one night. It wasn't that musky animal smell that you'd expect from a raccoon. It was like wet iron, maybe blood. It's hard to explain. The air just felt thicker. Everything felt heavy. You could feel a dark presence. If anyone knows, they'll understand. Anyway, fast forward to the week before Christmas. It was one of those long snowstorms that stacked up 2 feet overnight. I remember because the plow hadn't come through yet. Around 10 that night, I was sitting on the couch half asleep when the power started flickering. It flashed once, twice, and then completely cut off. Total blackout. The only light was from the wood stove through the hallway. I went down to the basement to flip the breaker, which I'd done before during storms. The flashlight caught the frost coming off my breath. It's always cold down there, but this time it felt like walking into a freezer. I turned the corner toward the breaker box, and something had torn the insulation out from behind the furnace. It looked like something had crawled in from the outside vent. There was snow blown halfway across the floor and these wet prints. Just long impressions like fingers dragging. When I crouched down, that smell hit me again. Metallic. My flashlight started dimming right then. I don't know if it was the batteries or what, but the light faded until I could barely see. That's when I heard it breathing behind the furnace. These deep, slow breaths with a whistle at the end of each inhale like a lung full of fluid. I whispered my wife's name, praying, even though I knew, but she didn't answer. I backed up, hit my shoulder on the wall, and dropped the flashlight. It spun around on the floor, and in a split second it flicked on, before it went out completely. I saw the side of something's face peeking from behind that furnace. It was gray. It looked wet, and it had coarse hair running up its jawline. The eyes caught what little light was left and reflected a yellow, amberish color. I ran up the stairs so fast I hit my shin on the top step. I slammed the door and locked it. I dragged the kitchen table over it without even thinking. My wife came out, panicking, saying, "What are you doing?" But I couldn't even talk for a minute. I was out of my mind. We called the cops the next morning. He came out, went down there, and said he didn't see anything. He pointed out that the vent was loose and probably a raccoon had got in and spooked me. I asked him if he'd ever seen a raccoon pull a steel vent cover off the outside wall. He just looked at me and didn't answer. Yeah, I didn't think so. We moved out of there 3 months later. The realtor told us the new buyers wanted to refinish the basement. I didn't say a word about any of it. I still have a photo somewhere on my old phone of those long marks in the snow just outside the vent. I never showed it to anyone. It's one of those pictures you don't even want to look at twice, really. I'll try to dig it up. If I do find it and have time, I will send it so you can add it to this encounter. I don't care what anyone calls it. Dogman, werewolf, wolfman, whatever you feel fits it best. But something came up through that vent that night. I could smell it, I could hear it, and I swear it was thinking about coming farther in before I interrupted. We live in a small rental now in town. No basement, no woods around us. My wife calls it our safe house. But sometimes when the heat kicks on, I still catch that same smell in the air. Cold metal and something sour underneath it. It's probably all in my head, especially after going through something like that. I can't help but wonder if that thing is still out there around that house, crawling through someone else's vent now. I truly hope not. Jason M., Marquette, Michigan. Brother Reels. I'm writing this while I'm sitting on my porch. I'm half hoping I don't hear what I think I hear every night. It's been almost a year since everything started, and it's still not completely gone. I live just outside Harrison, Arkansas, on a small piece of family land that backs up to timber company property. My granddad left me the place when he passed. It's a double wide with a tin roof and a couple of old outbuildings that I keep my tools and lawnmowers in. It's mostly quiet out here except for coyotes and the occasional logging truck late at night. I keep a few chickens and a garden. Last spring, something started messing with the coop around 2 or 3 in the morning. At first, the suspect in mind was a fox or a neighbor's dog. I'd find the latch bent, wire pushed in like something was trying to get in from the outside. I put a padlock on it and figured that would be the end of it. I barricaded it a little bit, enough to keep a small rodent from getting in. That's what I thought I was dealing with. A week later, I woke up to the most awful screaming I've ever heard in my life. It wasn't the chickens. It was coming from the tree line behind the coop. Long and high, but with a growl in it that you felt in your chest. I grabbed my 30-30 and stepped out with a spotlight. Rain had just started spitting, and the light hit mist, so it could only see 20 feet or so. Something was standing behind that coop. I saw shoulders and a head shaped like a dog's, but higher than any dog or anything else should have ever been. It moved when the light hit it, almost like it burned its skin. It didn't move backwards, it moved sideways like it was trying to circle around me. I fired immediately once and heard it crash through the woods. I didn't see any blood, but The smell was there. I could smell something rotten and smelled like a wet dog. The next morning I went out and found no prints in the mud. Found nothing, actually. And I'm sure there's a lot of people, if you use this, will be saying, well, I would have done this. Why didn't you do that? You should have called this person. You should have called the cops. Yeah, I hear all that. And hindsight's 20/20, remember that. I honest to God didn't know what the hell to do. So, I just carried on with my day and tried to be cautious and keep an eye out because I didn't know what this was or if it was going to come back. And sure enough, that night, it did. It didn't make a sound until after midnight. Then the side of the trailer shook like someone hit it with a sledgehammer. The window by my bed rattled so hard the curtain hooks fell off. I sat there with the gun in my hands, listening to it breathe outside the wall for maybe 5 minutes, which felt like an eternity. You can tell yourself you won't be scared when something like that happens. You'll be a hero. You'll be the first one to ever take one of these things down. But I could barely move. For a few weeks it was a pattern, always between 1 and 3 in the morning, sometimes scratching on the walls, sometimes just pacing. I set trail cameras around the coop in the backyard. All I got were blurry frames where the lens was fogged on the camera and it was tilted. One photo had a shape in it that looked like a hand with something on it, but it was half cut off by the edge of the frame, and no one is going to look at that and know what they're seeing. About a month in, I shot at it again. I heard a hit. I heard it thump. That sound you hear when a bullet goes into something solid but soft. I heard a snarl that sounded like a person screaming through a blender, and it took off into the trees. I thought that was going to be it, but after that it started finding small things to do. I found things moved around the yard each morning. Tools, feed buckets. Even the wheelbarrow once was flipped over and thrown across the yard about 50 feet. Or moved, I don't know if it threw it or what. It's like it was trying to let me know that it was still there and now it was angry. The worst night was in June. It was hot and still there was no wind. I was on the couch when I heard knuckles drag down the siding, long and slow like it was tracing the length of the house. Then it stopped right by the kitchen window. I didn't look out this time. I didn't even move. I just sat there and listened to it breathe through the screen, praying that it would just leave. I'd already shot this thing with a 30-30 once, and I know I hit it. It seems to not affect it at all. I don't know if it ever left for good. By August, everything got quiet again. There was no more smells, no more activity at all. There has been a couple nights that the dogs will start whining and staring at the back door. I'll go out and check, and I'll find nothing. Just the edge of the woods and a little bit of fog every now and then moving in the trees. Any type of movement now completely freaks me out, and I go into defense mode. These things will take a mental toll on you, like you can't believe. People around here still say it was a bear, or maybe someone out there messing with me. Yeah, sure. Someone that took a round from a 30-30 and just kept coming back for more. Fine, let them think that, I guess. I know what was out there, I know what I saw, and I know what I heard. Whatever it was, it learned that I could shoot at it. It learned that I could hurt it. But it also learned that I live alone. I keep 2 guns loaded now, and a floodlight on the coop. I haven't had fresh eggs in months because I can't bring myself to restock the chickens. Every time I hear something move outside, I half expect to see that thing out there. I don't really know if it's coming back, and if it does, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I guess I'm just going to unload on this thing and pray that I win the fight. Anyway, that's my story. Do what you want with it. Just don't use my last name. D. in Boone County, Arkansas. Hello, Reels. I'm not even sure what I'd call what happened to me. Maybe incident is the right word. I still drive that same road every day for work, but only during daylight now. I'll give you the rundown as best I can remember it. This was just over 2 years ago, in October, outside of Kittening, Pennsylvania. I worked maintenance for a school district. That week we were doing a roof job at one of the smaller elementary schools, and I'd been staying late locking up equipment. The night this happened, it was a little after 9:30 when I finally headed home. The route I take cuts through a stretch of back road called Beach Hollow. There's nothing out there, just trees crowding both sides of the road. It's only about 7 miles long, but at night it feels endless. It was cold that evening. It was cold enough that the air would burn your nose. I had the heater running full blast and the radio on. About a mile in, I saw something up ahead near the ditch. I thought for sure it was a deer, so I slowed down, not wanting to smash it. I turned the high beams on, and that's when this thing straightened up. Just stood there, on 2 legs, right by the guardrail. I hit the brakes so hard the seatbelt caught me in my chest and left a bruise. Whatever it was, it turned its head toward the car, and the light hit its face. Orange reflection, not red like an animal's. It had dark fur, patchy in spots. Its arms hung low like it wasn't sure what to do with them. It was the craziest damn thing I've ever seen in my life. I sat there maybe 5 seconds before it moved. It dropped down on all fours slowly and ran across the road in front of me so fast it looked like a blur. I could see its back flex, the shoulder blades moving like a dog running. But this thing was too big, it was too damn long. I remember the sound of its nails hitting the road and sharp clicks, 4 or 5 of them before it was just gone into the trees on the other side. I waited a minute, then started rolling again, just crawling along. About half a mile later, I heard something behind me. I glanced in the mirror, and I swore I saw the shape in the red glow of my taillights running on the shoulder. I tried to convince myself at the time it was just my imagination, but my gut was already tying itself in knots. It's funny what your brain will do in moments like this. You try to convince yourself that what you're seeing with your own eyes isn't really there. By the time I hit the next turn, I couldn't see anything. I sped up, just wanting to reach the main road. Then there was a thump from the back end of the car, like someone had dropped a sandbag onto the trunk. I looked in the mirror again, and there was nothing there. The second I eased off the gas, another thump, this time a lot heavier and closer to the rear window. That's when I floored it. I was through with this situation. I didn't care what it was. I knew it was big, and it was scary, and it was after me. That's all I needed to know. The car started fishtailing on the wet pavement, and something slammed into the rear quarter panel. I could hear something that sounded like a knife on metal. I remember screaming out loud, just yelling nonsense. When I hit 60, it finally slid off the car. I made it home maybe 10 minutes later and sat in the driveway with the lights still on. I couldn't even move. I finally forced myself out to look. There were these huge gashes in the trunk lid. 5 parallel lines cut deep into the paint. They were almost deep enough to hit metal. The back window was smeared with mud or grease like a handprint, but too wide to be human or animal. I didn't sleep at all that night. Every time a car would pass by, the light would hit my curtains and I'd think it was back. The next morning I went to work like nothing happened, but I took a detour around Beach Hollow. 2 days later, my buddy from the shop said, "What the hell happened to your car?" I just told him I backed into something. I didn't want to explain it. A few weeks later, I got curious and went back through there in the daytime. I stopped where it crossed the road. I didn't see anything suspicious or anything that I could use as, yeah, this thing was really here. I guess I was trying to prove to myself it wasn't real, even after seeing the damage to my car. I still drive the same car, but the damages, of course, have been repaired. It just felt like proof of something no one would believe anyway. What good does it do you to have any kind of proof it's all fake and a hoax, right? Yeah, I'm gonna destroy the trunk of my car just to trick someone into believing my story. That doesn't even make sense. I'm not quite that pathetic and lonely. I've never really discussed it fully with my wife. She just knows I won't drive that road anymore, especially after dark. I'll take the long way around every time. 20 extra minutes. It's cheaper than the kind of nightmare that road gave me that night. I hope one day we figure out what these things are, or what their purpose is. I personally think there's some sort of supernatural biblical explanation, but that's a different email. Rob, Armstrong County, Pennsylvania. Friends, legends, family. If you made it this far, you're officially tougher than most. The people who sent me these encounters they're not asking for fame or attention, make no mistake. They just wanted someone to believe what happened to them, someone to listen without laughing. And I myself completely understand this. It's one thing to go through something like this, but to have people laugh in your face and act like you're a liar or some kind of crazy lunatic makes it that much worse. Some people get angry and say, "I hope one day they see one so they can't laugh anymore." I'm not that person. As angry as I've got before, I don't wish that on anyone. I don't want anyone to have to go through that, ever. It's like taking your worldview, your beliefs, everything you've been taught from a small child, and just dumping gas on it and lighting it on fire right in front of you. It's not a great feeling. Anyways, I want to thank you again for listening, and I want to thank you for the continued support here on the channel. If you enjoyed this upload, please hit the like button, share it with someone who may want to hear it, or someone it could help. Encourage them to come forward if they've had a similar incident. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you think. I always enjoy reading your guys' comments. Also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. It helps out tremendously. That's gonna do it for this one, y'all. Please, stay safe out there. Use your head. Trust your instincts. They could very well save your life. Thanks, legends, for keeping the fire going. I love each and every one of you. Until next time, my friends, watch over your loved ones, keep your head on a swivel, and as always, good night.